Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today we are setting up my reading journal for the year of 2025, and I know it's February, but I've decided to go with the flow of things and stop with the perfectionism, which I've mentioned in my previous video. So we're going with it. I'm so happy to show you guys this theme. I mentioned during my bullet journal setup for the year of 2025 that there would be at least 3 setups for the year that are blue at long last, because blue is my favorite color, but I always struggled to incorporate it into themes, and this year I finally got the hang of it. But all 3 of them are connected by the same quote, which is per aspera ad astra. It's Latin for, well, there are a few different transitions. They all kind of revolve around the same idea, but it's through hardships to the stars. The translation that inspired this cover that you're watching on your screen right now was from a book called If We Were Villains by M.L. Rio. They translated it to Through the Thorns to the Stars, which is what inspired this. I've been long overdue to do some kind of a Gothic cathedral window. I absolutely love Gothic architecture. I live in Europe. We have a few on this side of the world, and I would absolutely love to visit. I don't know if you guys have ever seen it, but there is a cathedral in Germany, in the city of Cologne, that is absolutely humongous and it's stunning, and I want to see it so bad. But yeah, kind of incorporating a few things into this cover, and I'm so happy with how this turned out, and I hope you guys enjoy it. I was scared that it would kind of be a bit harsh looking, but I think I kind of got the balance, I think, at least, between harsh and whimsical. I hope I did, at least. But let me know what you guys think. And I'm so happy that I finally incorporated blue. Seriously, I struggled so hard with using cold tones. It sounds so silly, but when you get really used to using one certain type of shade to color things in, it can get kind of hard to stop using it. It kind of becomes a crutch. And I was so used to using beiges and warm colored, no, not warm colored, warm toned colors, that the shift to the cool tones was so weird. But yeah, we got the hang of it. On to the 2025 reading challenge page. I decided to be extra ambitious this year. Why? Delusion. No, but I've decided that this year I'm gonna do the things that I set myself out to do. And for example, last year I read 33 books. The year before that I only read 15. I went from being an avid reader to being a bit of a book slump person, because it wasn't just like a reading slump, it was a season. Okay. You kind of really lose the habit, and then it's hard to get back into gear, and you really need to find books that you like and that draw you into reading and that kind of draw you back into that world. And I also have an issue, which is if I read books that are really good, it slumps the crap out of me because it's so, you know how people have like post trip depression and post concert depression? I get post really good book depression. And I know that some people feel the same way. But for example, I really loved the ACOTAR series. The first 3 books, well, 4, if we count the Court of Starlight. I haven't read the other one yet, like the orange covered one. I don't remember the name of it. It's, I think, a Court of Starlight. No, Starlight is the 4th. A Court of something. The 4th one. I haven't read that yet, but the first 3, I love those so much. And I'm excluding that one because I've also heard that some people don't like it, and I completely understand why they don't like it. But those first 3, I can only vouch for those first 3. I adore them so much, and I was so immersed in that world every time that I read that series, because I've reread it like 3 times so far. I get so blocked. I can't read anything. And I keep on doing it, but just I miss the world. I miss the characters. I need to go back. But yeah, it has an effect on me. But In 2024, we discovered a few interesting things. Firstly, I discovered that I actually enjoy audiobooks for some scenarios. Like, I discovered that I enjoy audiobooks for nonfiction, which is great because I really want to absorb the content of nonfiction, but it is the kind of book that can make you enter a reading slump really quickly because it can be very dense in reading format, but I didn't find that to be the case with hearing format. So it kind of feels like a podcast. So I'm still getting that content in. And for most of them, I do have physical copies of those books. So if I feel like I need to go back and highlight something or just put in a little sticky note to highlight something, I can do that. But I still ingest consume the content that I am trying to learn, which is great. Second thing, I discovered that I really like mysteries. I didn't think I liked mysteries. I like mysteries. That's so fun. I would focus so much on just classics and fantasy, which both of them are kind of hard to maintain a good streak. Vintages, not vintages. I was thinking of the vintage editions. Classic books because they're kind of, most of them are kind of hard to get through. At least for me, not being a native speaker of English, I read most classics in English, and it is a different English than the one that I'm used to in most cases, and it's just not the kind of, language that I'm used to. So it takes me a little bit to process the information. And for fantasy, because of what I said, if the book is good, I'll be depressed. I will miss the characters, I'll miss the world, and it'll be hard to get back into something else. Mysteries, I don't have that. Mysteries make me want to devour the book, and then I'm okay. At least for the mysteries that I've read so far, which is great. And then another thing is that I found that I actually like rom-coms, like casual romance books. I didn't realize that I liked those, but I read a few and I like them. So I've broadened my spectrum of books that I can usually go for, which is so cool. And I'm really excited about that. And I also have some middle grade fiction books that I like to read. I also want to finish some series that I started and that I know I'll be hyped to read them. I also want to read some graphic novels. I also want to read some more books in Portuguese because I am Portuguese and I haven't read a book in Portuguese in so long. Reason for that being, you're probably wondering why books in Portuguese are more expensive than books in English, especially if they're translations, and translations are not great. So I don't really have the habit of reading books in Portuguese overall. And when it comes to Portuguese authors, I find that most of them are horribly snobbish. Like, I don't like the vibe for a lot of the books, but I want to broaden my spectrum. It has been a good decade since I've considered buying books from Portuguese authors. I'm not even gonna lie to you. My mom consumes a good amount of them. Sometimes I would reach for one in her bookshelf, but I really need to figure out what's out there. And I see that there are some books coming out in Portuguese that I actually think are interesting, and some classics that I simply never dove into because they were like not in my reading program at school. But yeah, so we have some interesting goals in mind. And so my reading goal for this year, I've set it to the whopping 100. Mind you, for years in a row, I've set the goal to 50 and I didn't reach it. But I think I can do 100. I think I can do it. As of right now that I'm voicing this over, it's the beginning of February and I'm on book 8. So I've read 7. And, well, actually, I'm kind of simultaneously reading 3 books because I have books for different occasions. So, yeah, I'm working on book 8, 9, and 10, and I have 2 audiobooks on standby. So I think I have a good chance. And also, I'm saving some really quick and cute reads for when I'm feeling like slumpish. Right now, I'm juggling 3 books. I have The Hand on the Wall, which is from the Truly Devious series by Maureen Johnson. It's the 3rd book in the series, and that series I am so incredibly curious to know what happens. I have issues with the main character. She's a bit of a pick me, too much for my taste, but the mystery part of the book has me in a chokehold. I need to know what happens. The second one is The Song of Achilles. The third one is Portuguese. It's by José Saramago. It is called O Ano da Morte de Ricardo Reis, which translates to The Year of the Death of Ricardo Reis. I would tell you what the book is about. I don't know. It's a classic. A lot of people studied it in school. When I was in school, in high school, that was not the classic by Saramago that we read. We read O Memorial do Convento, and I'd never read this one. And I like going into these kinds of books knowing as least as I possibly can. Why? I don't know. It's just, I just like to go with that approach. But Ricardo Reis is one of the heteronyms of Fernando Pessoa, who was another Portuguese writer. He was a poet. And he had these heteronyms, which is like, imagine that someone has multiple personalities. He had different personalities for writing. He had, like, I think it was three, at least main three, that he would sign like the poems with their names, with different names, and each would have a different style, a different like personality even. It was a whole thing. But yeah, I have no idea what the book's about. I've just started. I struggle with Saramago. His books are interesting, but I'm going to be honest, I don't like his writing style. It's very postmodernism, and I don't love postmodernism, so I'm kind of forcing myself to read the book because something in me tells me that I need to read the book. Why? No idea. It's pure intuition. I had just the book staring at me, and I felt like, you know what, it's time. So yeah, let's see if we like it. The Song of Achilles, too soon to tell. But I love anything involving Greek mythology, so I think I'll enjoy that, even if it tears me to shreds. I've heard people say that it's sad. And The Hand on the Wall, like I said, the mystery has me in its grip. So I need to know what happens. But all of them are really in the beginning. But yes, you guys did not ask for that, but just so you know, this is my TBR page. I decided to do little cutouts so that I didn't have to repeat the whole thing. I want to do the thing where I put in the little covers of the books. I thought it'd be cute. And I decided how to I figured out how to do that on Canva. So I've done that, and I have some cute little covers that I will be gluing on soon. I'll probably do that in a reading journal update, or like I'll do a setup for February, maybe March. It's already February. I'm probably going to skip like a monthly setup for February and just skip to one for March, and I'll update my reading journal up until that point, and I'll let you guys know. I'll do that. I think I'll do that. But yes, I had the goal for 100 books, but I wanted the spacings on here to match up. So I actually have space for about 120 covers. Also, because I know that I'll get excited when it comes to making the TBR list. You know, because I'm that kind of person. I get excited, and I'll probably have more books in my TBR than I'll read anyways. So I wanted to give myself the space to just dream big. Again, not really sure if I'll reach the 100 books. It'll absolutely be a testament to my growth as a reader if I do, but I'll do my best. And I actually have high hopes, because usually by this time of the year, I'm still thinking, well, I have time to read, and I'll either not have read anything or just read one book or two. Like I said, I'm on book 7. So feeling good, and I know that I have some interesting reads ahead of me, so I will be intrigued. Also, I have Iron Flame to read. I read what was the first book? Fourth Wing. I read Fourth Wing last year. I think it's easy to say that it was my favorite read of the year last year. I read it while I was coming back from Berlin. But it was phenomenal, and I didn't want to read Iron Flame right away. I wanted to wait until it was closest to Onyx Storm coming out. And so, yeah, I have it to read, but I think I'm going to try to finish these 3 first before I dive into it. because I have things that I need to get done, and I know I'll get hooked. But yeah, so some interesting reads ahead of me, like I said, and I'm enjoying a bit too much talking about books. Anyways, moving on to small challenges that I want to take on throughout the year. I don't want to just have a challenge as far as books read, like the number of books. I want to challenge myself to do some things outside of the box. So, kind of going again with the Gothic window design, but just altering it a little bit. For the challenges that I have to read 10 tomes. So I want to have a good balance of like smaller books and like graphic novels so that I can balance that out. Because what I usually do, since I'm trying to read more books than I usually do in previous years, I end up going just for small books. And then even if there's like a bigger book that I want to read, I'll kind of pass that on just because I know it'll take me a long time. And it will be a long time spent on one book rather than multiple. So I have that bad habit and I want to break it. So I'm going to try and have a good balance of, the quick reads, like the romances and mysteries that really draw me in and make me read them really quickly. And then use that as like a bit of a sprint that gives me time to read tomes. I hope that made sense. It makes sense to me. But yeah, 10 tomes, 10 Portuguese books. Like I said, I need to read some Portuguese books. I want to read 10 classics as well. I also have some classics that I really like to get into. I just put down like 15 slots for fantasy. There are a good number of fantasy books that I'd like to get my hands on. 20 nonfiction. Like I said, I've been listening to them on audiobook, which makes them a bit quicker than if I were to sit down and read them. Probably won't get to 20, or I might. We'll see. 5 graphic novels. I have some under. Not under. I have some in my mind. There is a series that's like, it's not a graphic novel per se. I think there's a name for it. I don't remember what the name is. It's like a comic book, but it's not a comic book. I don't know. It's called Lore Olympus. It's based in Greek mythology as well. And there was another one that I think it's called Light. It's called Light something. But it's more like a middle grade fiction, and it looks really cute, and it looks like it's very fun. I also already read one of the graphic novels that I want to read for this year, which is actually a reread. It's called Sheets, and it's about like a ghost that literally wears a sheet, and it's so cute. And then for the other challenges, we have 20 books owned before 2025. My cat is meowing. My cat is meowing. But 20 books owned before 2025, because I have the bad habit of buying more books than the books that I read. 20 audiobooks and 10 Shakespeare plays. So those are my side challenges for this year. Apologies for my cat. I literally had to stop the voiceover and go check on him. Nothing was wrong. He's just dramatic. He's an orange boy, and he hears me talking, and if it's not to him, he starts crying out just because he wants the attention. But yes, these are my reading challenges for this year. I am really, like I said, I'm trying to be a bit more strategic and gain the good momentum behind me that I need to read more books. There are a lot of stories out there. I want to read a lot of them, and I know that I will never be able to read all of them, which just makes me sad. But if I can get to the ones that I want to read the most, that'll make me really happy. And also, there are some really great nonfiction books out there that teach you so much. And I want to absorb all of it. And you know what? I work on screens all day. I work in front of a screen 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. And then I do YouTube on my free time, which, even though most of the process is spent drawing, there's also a good amount of computer work that comes with that. If I can do some reading preparation slash um, hyping up for myself that allows me to reduce some of my non-essential screen time, because I already spend enough time in front of computers. I don't need to also be having my face shoved into my phone while I'm not working. So if I can use books to counter that addiction, because let's face it, it is an addiction. We're all addicted to our phones. I would rather spend my life with my face shoved into books than with my face shoved into my phone. It's a much more useful use of my time. It is so much better for my mental health, for my brain, because it's really good for your brain to read books. You get a lot of knowledge, and even if you're just reading like cute little rom-coms, you're learning through the experience of other characters. It's still instructional, and I wish people wouldn't have like such a weird idea of when people read books that are kind of like silly. Even if it's just like a silly little romance, you're still learning things. You're still experiencing things through someone else's eyes. You're still seeing the world through someone else's experience, and it can actually be very instructive. But yeah, I'd rather use my free time doing something that is good for me, than having my face in a screen. And so even though books are expensive, I would rather spend my money on books than I'd rather spend my time and my health in front of a phone, because it is so bad for you. I notice a big difference when I read more in how easily I fall asleep, on my sleep quality, on my mood. I'm just so much calmer. I notice that I have less anxiety, and so I would really like to be more organized when it comes to my reading. And by setting up different challenges, it makes me want to achieve them, because I am competitive even with myself. And so I want to do that. And by wanting to achieve those challenges, I spend more time reading. And if I spend more time reading, I spend less time on my phone. And so ultimately, that way I improve my life in multiple different ways. So yes, I just don't improve my wallet, but you know what? There's literally a price to pay for that. So yeah, moving on for my books read spread. I wanted to have a difference between the TBR and the actual books read. I don't know about you guys. I get carried away when I'm making TBRs. I get really carried away. There are so many books, so little time. And then I make TBRs based predominantly on the books that I have at home, and some like new additions that I would like to make. But when I'm making TBRs, I am a serious person who does not have a problem when it comes to buying books. I am like, you know what, I'm going to read most of the books that I already have, and then I go into bookstores. Or I go on Amazon, or a new release comes out, or I just feel like, you know what, I need some excitement in my reading life, and I buy books that were never even in the plan, but you know what, life happens. So I want to have a place to count everything, and like I said, I have a goal for 100. I have the space for about 120 covers, and just in case, I made the spread for book spread to have a capacity for 124 books. Just because you never know. You never know. The delusion might actually become prophecy. So maybe I'll read more books, and maybe I'll need the space. For example, if I read the Allure Olympus series, that series is like a graphic novel. That's about 10 books, I believe. And then I have another trilogy, which is kind of like middle grade fiction graphic novel. That's also 3. Graphic novels are really quick reads, which is annoying because they tend to be expensive, and I completely understand why they're expensive, because the artists put so much work into them. But it's just annoying that you spend a good amount of money on a book they'll read for like an hour, you know. Anyways, but if I read those 2 series, for example, that's 13 books that'll be read really quickly. And now my other cat is meowing. What is going on? But basically, for example, if I go for those, that will have me reach my 100 goal quicker than I thought. Also, audiobooks are also faster, and I got into audiobooks, and I have a good amount of audiobooks that I want to listen to for nonfiction purposes. So you know what? we don't know. Maybe 100 books is delusional, or maybe I'll actually use it. Not use it. Achieve it. And maybe I'll go beyond it. I don't know. Or maybe I'll just mess up some lines and I need to scratch it and write it down somewhere else. We shall see. We shall see. But yeah, just I decided to be prepared for any event. And yeah, so we have more space. And just going on with my little branch with the stars theme. And I'm so in love with this palette. These markers, by the way, they are from Faber-Castell. They have their Pit Artist brush markers that I really, really like. They're really nice. And so yeah, moving on to my spreads. I have this spread for audiobooks. I don't actually think I'll use it. I think I had really great intentions when I when I set it up, and right now I'm like, maybe this doesn't make that much sense. We'll see. But I have a spread for audio books for like the hours spent listening to audiobooks, and then I have one for pages read per day. I'm going to mostly use the pages read per day because I don't listen to audiobooks every day or even regularly. I'll kind of go through sprints of listening to an audiobook from end to end, and then maybe like I'll feel inspired to listen to another one and another one. But I can easily go for like a month or two without listening to audiobooks. I listened to one in January, but that was it. I haven't listened to any other ones, but we'll see. And by the way, I didn't keep track of how many hours I spent listening to in January. Now that I think about it, I didn't. We'll try that for February. I'll keep track of that. For the pages, we're doing it so far. I actually don't have statistics, but I had a good amount of days where I read more than 100 pages per day, so I'm happy about that. But yes, I like to have statistics on how much I'm reading a day. In a year, I did that last year. I just kept that in my normal bullet journal because I didn't have a reading journal, but I really like doing that, and it's interesting to see when I entered like reading slumps because you'll just see a bunch of zeros, and also interesting when you can clearly see that a book spiked my interest because you'll go from like 300 50, you know. It's so funny, and it just allows me to really quickly see my year in the books that I read because I'll remember when I didn't feel like reading. I'll remember when I was like consistently reading a book like 50 pages a day, or when I had this huge spike because I was reading Fourth Wing in Rarity and I had like 300 pages read in a day. So yeah, it's just funny, and I definitely recommend it because you will notice those things at the end of the year as well. You'll notice like the spikes of interest and the slumps and just the months where you really were reading so much more or less. It really depends on people. If you're like a really consistent reader, maybe this is not worth pursuing. If you're trying to get more into reading, it can absolutely be interesting to look back on. I had fun looking back on mine for 2024, so I recommend that. And also, you can set like, not statistics, but like realistic goals for the pages that you read in a day. Like if you know that you take about 30 minutes, I don't know, to read 50 pages, maybe that's a realistic goal that you can set for yourself to just read more. Or I don't know, if you know that you can take a certain amount of time to read a certain amount of pages and that is realistic to you, maybe that's a good thing to try and implement, you know? But yes, and now going in with the final flip through. I am so happy with how this setup turned out. I think it turned out so beautiful and meaningful and useful. I am really excited to start filling out this reading journal and to just kick off the year with some really great books I already have. And I don't know, I'm just really excited for this reading year ahead of me and excited to bring you guys along a little bit. And let's see how many reading challenges I can complete. I'm determined. But yeah, guys, thank you so much for watching. As always, let me know what you think. I love to hear from you, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye!